All right, drivers, let's cut straight to the chase. You're thinking about getting your own authority? Or maybe you already got it, but you're second guessing your choice. Interstate or intrastate? It's the million-dollar question that'll shape everything about your trucking business. I'm going to break this down for you in plain English, no BS, no fluff. We're talking real money, real regulations, and real talk about what it's actually like out there. Stick around because by the end of this, you'll know exactly which route makes sense for your situation. Here's the deal. This isn't just about crossing state lines. This decision hits you in 3 places that matter: your wallet, your paperwork pile, and how much time you spend sleeping in your own bed versus that sleeper berth. Let me paint you a picture. I know a guy. Let's call him Mike. Been driving for 15 years, started as a company driver, saved up, got his own rig. But he made the mistake of not thinking through this choice. Got intrastate authority because it seems simpler. Then 3 months later, he's watching all these juicy cross-country loads go by while he's stuck hauling gravel around Ohio. On the flip side, I know another driver, Sarah, jumped straight into interstate. Now she's grossing 6 figures but hasn't seen her kids' school play in 2 years. The point is, there's no cookie-cutter answer here. What works for Mike ain't gonna work for Sarah, and what works for Sarah might not work for you. Now listen up, because this is where a lot of drivers get tripped up. Interstate doesn't just mean you drove from Texas to California. If we pick up a container at the port of Long Beach that came off a ship from China, and you're just taking it 50 miles inland to a warehouse, guess what? That's interstate commerce, even though you never left California. Why? Because that freight crossed international borders as part of its journey. The feds don't care that your truck stayed put. They care about where that cargo's been. Here's a real example. You're in Houston. There's a load going from a warehouse in Houston to a distribution center in Dallas. Looks intrastate, right? Wrong. Turns out that freight came in on a train from Louisiana yesterday. Interstate commerce, baby. This catches drivers all the time. You think you're playing it safe with intrastate authority, then you accidentally take the wrong load and now you're operating illegally. DOT finds out during an inspection, you're looking at fines that'll make your head spin. Let's talk numbers because that's what pays the bills. Insurance. Interstate's gonna hit you harder right out the gate. You're looking at a minimum $750,000 coverage, often more. I've seen carriers require million-dollar policies. Intrastate? Some states let you get away with $300,000. That's a real difference in your monthly premium. But here's where it gets interesting. Age requirements. Interstate? You gotta be 21. Intrastate? Most states let you start at 18. That's 3 years of earning potential if you're a young gun looking to get started. Home time? Interstate means you might be out 3 weeks, home 3 days. Intrastate? You're probably sleeping in your own bed most nights. And here's a number that'll surprise you. Job growth projections through 2032. Interstate is looking at 5% growth. Intrastate? 9%. The local delivery game is exploding with all this e-commerce stuff. Now let's talk about what really matters. What's going in your pocket at the end of the day? Interstate operations cost more upfront and ongoing. You got IFTA quarterly filings. That's a pain in the rear if you're doing it yourself, or it's money out of pocket if you're paying someone. IRP registration across multiple states. UCR fees. It adds up faster than truck stop coffee. But, and this is a big but, you can charge more per mile. I've seen OTR loads paying $3, $4, even $5 per mile for the right freight. You rack up 2,500 miles in a week? Do the math. Intrastate keeps your costs lean. No IFTA headaches. Single state registration. Lower insurance minimums. Your truck's not getting beat up on interstates for thousands of miles every week. The trade-off? You might be making $25 an hour on local routes instead of banking those high-mile weeks. But here's the kicker. I know a dump truck driver in North Dakota pulling $180,000 a year hauling sand for the oil fields. Never left the state. Found his niche and owns it. Let's talk about the regulatory circus, because this is where a lot of good drivers throw in the towel. Interstate? You're dealing with the FMCSA, Federal Hours of Service rules. 11 hours driving, 14 hours on duty, mandatory 10-hour break, ELD requirements, driver qualification files. drug and alcohol testing programs. It's all standardized, which means once you learn it, it's the same from Maine to California. Intrastate? Every state's got their own flavor. Texas lets you drive 12 hours instead of 11. Some states have ELD exemptions for short-haul operations. Sounds easier, right? Well, yes and no. Sure, the rules might be more relaxed, but if you ever want to expand into another state, you gotta learn a whole new set of regulations. And here's the catch. You accidentally haul interstate freight with Intrastate authority, you just violated federal regulations, even if you didn't know it. This is where the rubber meets the road, literally. What's your time worth to you? Interstate lifestyle means living in that sleeper for weeks at a time, truck stop showers, eating whatever garbage they're selling at the fuel desk, missing your kid's birthday, your anniversary, probably both. I remember talking to a driver at a truck stop in Oklahoma, been OTR for 12 years, making good money, but his wife left him and he barely knows his teenage daughter. That's the real cost nobody talks about. Intrastate? You're home most nights. Sleep in your own bed. Wife cooks dinner instead of microwave burritos. You actually know your neighbors. But here's the thing. Some drivers thrive on the road. They love seeing new places, the freedom, the independence. I know guys who tried local work and were climbing the walls within a month. They need that open highway. Let's talk about where the freight actually is, because that's what determines if you're making money or going broke. Interstate freight, you got your retail distribution. Amazon, Walmart, all those massive supply chains moving stuff coast to coast. Automotive parts from plants in Mexico to assembly lines in Michigan. Produce from California to everywhere else. Equipment's usually your stand-up 53-foot dry vans, reefers for the cold stuff, flatbeds for machinery. Intrastate freight, that's your local economy. Construction materials, sand, gravel, rebar. Local manufacturing and distribution. Municipal services like garbage, utility work. Equipment's different too. Dump trucks, box trucks, cement mixers, specialized local stuff. Here's an example. In Texas, you got oil field services, hauling water, equipment, pipe. Never leave the state. But you're making serious money because that industry pays well, and there's always work. In Florida, could be citrus, tourism support, port drayage. California, agriculture, tech freight, massive local markets. All right, decision time. How do you actually choose? Choose Interstate if you want maximum earning potential and market flexibility. You don't mind complex paperwork, or you got someone handling it for you. And being away from home for weeks doesn't break your heart. Choose Interstate if home time is your #1 priority. You want simpler operations, less regulatory hassle. You'd rather build relationships with local customers than compete on national load boards. But here's my pro tip, and I learned this the hard way. If you're gonna get a 40 anyway, get Interstate from the start. Here's why. Interstate Authority lets you haul intrastate loads too. You got all the flexibility. You can take that cross-country run when the rate's right, or stick local when you want to be home. Starting Intrastate and trying to upgrade later, that's more paperwork, more fees, more headaches. It's like buying a pickup truck when you know you're gonna need a semi. Just get the semi. Here's what it all comes down to. There's good money in both sectors. The trucking industry's growing. Intrastate's actually showing stronger growth at 9% versus 5% for Interstate through 2032. Success comes down to 3 things, regardless of which path you choose. First, understand your market. If you're in Wyoming hauling energy sector freight, that's different than Florida doing port work. Know your local economy. Second, manage your costs effectively. Track every dollar going out. I don't care if it's fuel, insurance, or truck stop coffee. Know where your money's going. Third, run a professional operation. Show up on time, communicate clearly, take care of your equipment. The basics matter more than anything fancy. Look, whether you choose the open road or stay close to home, you're in the driver's seat of your own business. That's something to be proud of. Interstate, Intrastate, they're just different tools for different jobs. Pick the one that fits your life, your goals, and your situation. Then work it like your life depends on it, because in this business, it does. The road's calling, drivers. Choose your lane and make it count. If this breakdown helped you figure out your next move, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We got more no BS trucking business advice coming your way every week. Until next time, keep the shiny side up and the greasy side down.